The following show is intended for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh boy, what a week it's been. The
So much.
news has been nuts. Our business has been crazy. We've been crazy busy. Real estate's been nuts. I mean, man.
No surprise there.
We have a lot to cover today. A lot of things to go over. Inflation is officially here. We've been talking about it for a while, that it was coming, and it's here.
No, it's not.
It's arrived. Yeah, depends who you ask, I guess.
No, it's not. Not here.
But it's nuts. It's crazy what's going on with everything. We're going to be talking about all the inflation concerns, all the problems, how this is going to affect you. We're going to be talking about as well as these Russian cyber hackers that are going around hacking damn near everybody and just caused gas prices to freaking go up drastically. We're going to be talking about that. We have some real estate news. Housing just keeps going higher and higher. Lumber prices.
Did you see some of the pictures of people hoarding gas?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
What they were putting it in?
Well, I've been seeing, just plastic tubs.
Yeah, they're using like a plastic tote, or I saw somebody were just using like trash bags in their car and like zip tying them. It's like you realize gas like eats plastic, right?
It eats all that.
And you're driving down the road. I remember when the gas prices happened here that the fire department got sent out to the highway because of a massive fire on the highway because some dumb was sitting there filling gas tanks in the back of his truck with like plastic bags, and then the bags like ate away and lit on fire, and he's driving on the road with a roaring fire in the bed of his truck.
Here's my question for you though: in Kansas, is dummy dumb?
Yeah, I know. I just pulled that. I was like, that was like a
dummy dumb.
I was like, dumb, not gonna cuss. So
like,
dummy
that
dumb.
was a dummy dumb.
Yeah, I was like, trying to censor myself. That's what happens.
Very nice.
Yeah, but you should try it. See what you come up with.
No, I don't work on.
You just sit there. You just eat.
No, I just
squeak out.
I just gotta curse it. So a lot going on. A lot on the news today. Just for everybody that's joining us. If you are enjoying everything that you're hearing here, we have an insider community that we send updates, tips, strategies, everything only to them. And it's a text community. It's all free, and you can text us at any time, ask us questions. So if you're interested in joining that, just text CWTJ, that's Coffee with the Johns, to 210-794-9898. That number is also going to be in the description below, so you can check that out. But yeah, we have a lot going on this week, a lot of important headlines. But with that being said, I am your host, John Barbera, and with me as always is co-host extraordinaire, Mr. John Barr.
I like that. It's a good intro.
Yes. So, how has been your week?
It's been good. I'm trying to think of like how the week happened. Like
where
to start? Like what all went? I mean, as far as like the real estate going crazy, we listed a house last week and it just had 6 offers and 35 showings in like 3 days. Over ask price contract, and then I don't want to say easy negotiation. I mean, we did a pretty good job with the renovations too, and they went through and I looked at the inspection report. It was fairly clean. They wanted some stuff. I mean, getting properties rented, getting properties renovated. It's just moving right along.
Yeah. It's a crazy market. I mean, this is when you got to be more strategic with how you invest, level of rehab, just because you want to be flipping houses. Sometimes, I mean, there's houses that we buy that doesn't really require a flip because of where it's at, because of where the market is at. And I still see people that they're like, but I want to put subway tiles in.
I want to put granite countertops. I mean, the house we just listed late yesterday, for some reason I thought I had granite countertops in it, and I was looking at the pictures like, oh, this doesn't have granite? I was like, damn, one of the comps we would have, which has granite. It's like, that sucks. But we already have an offer over what the comp was sold at, and it had granite countertops.
Our ask.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of times now I just realize like the asking prices are subjective. Of just put something on there and just see what comes in.
And I mean, I wonder like how appraisers are adjusting to this, because I understand that when an appraiser is looking at a property, they need to look at, maybe the last 3 months of solds and base their opinion on that. But they have to be seeing what is going on in the market and take that into account.
Can't.
I mean, they have to use
the laws they abide by. They have
at
to look
the
at
end of the
today
day,
looking backwards.
What laws? They use their opinion. I mean, at the end of the day, it's their opinion. It's not even based on like almost any facts. We had a house that we have as a rental, and when it got appraised, remember they gave us $5,000 extra on an appraisal because it had a fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had a house across the street that they didn't do that to. You know what I mean? And it's a fireplace in Texas. Like aside from this crazy
It's
weekend
a feature.
in February, like it's just $5,000 extra for that. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But at the end of the day, it's just that. And we've had bad appraisals before. Remember the house in New Braunfels, the duplex?
The duplex, yeah. That was...
You know, so I mean, at the end of the day, it's an opinion. So you don't feel that appraisers are using this information, people that are overpaying, people that are coming in and paying more than asked.
I mean, you look at an appraisal, and it does say, like, they do give adjustments for appreciating neighborhoods at the rate things are going up and stuff like that, and that is a tool for them. But it's also they're still bound by they can only adjust a property so much and still use it as a comp. So if somebody's in here like, oh, I'm going to bid 20 grand over, I mean, one of ours, it came in 20 grand over your ask, and it was just like, I don't know how you could justify that in an appraisal. Like, that is too big a gap to try to cover from what is sold. Right. Recently, what an appraiser can look at. And they're saying our volume's really low. So we're good? Okay.
So if you just open up.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. 15 for each.
Okay.
Right.
Well, turn your volumes up, people.
Where are you seeing that? I'm not seeing any comments.
It's right there. Kim texted and she just texted us too.
Oh, text.
And well, no, it's right there in the chat too.
Yep.
But
all right.
Whatever.
So
but,
I did want to actually start off with some good news that we have. Some not us, but the whole country has some good news. People vaccinated against COVID-19 can go without masks indoors and outdoors. So this is from the CDC. So the CDC is saying that
the all-knowing, powerful CDC.
Yes, the country's pretty much open again. So if you've gotten fully vaccinated, you can go about your life. You can go anywhere you want to go. No mask, no problems. You're good to go anywhere you are. This is great news, but then at the same time, my curiosity is like, well, what's stopping anybody from doing it, right? Because they say if you're fully vaccinated, so you're just taking into good faith that people that are not fully vaccinated are going to respect that? Or is it that the people that care about it get fully vaccinated, so the ones that aren't, it doesn't really matter? What do you think?
Explain that again. You lost me where you're trying to go.
Because they're saying that if you're fully vaccinated, you can go out.
Okay.
How are they? How does anybody know that if you're going out without a mask that you're fully vaccinated?
You don't.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So are they doing this because they're trusting that the people that are fully vaccinated are not going to be affected by the ones that are not and are not wearing masks?
Well, that's what the vaccine does. Is it stops the virus. It prevents you from getting sick.
Right.
It's saying like you don't need to wear if you're fully vaccinated, you can go about and you can come in contact with somebody with COVID, and your chances of you getting are very, very, very low.
I mean, they've always, yeah. But so going on that, I mean, everything seems to be going back to normal, at least for the CDC purposes. And President Biden was excited about it. He's already taken off his masks. So good news.
Yeah, I mean, it's good news. It's just one of those things that that seemed like it took a very long time to let people, or that news to come out. Like, if you're fully vaccinated, you can go out and about. I don't know if they were waiting for results to come back or what they were wanting to do. Because, I mean, I remember seeing they still if you're fully vaccinated, you still need to be wearing a mask, and you still can't get together with other people that are fully vaccinated. So it's like, so was this just a giant experiment at first that you're like, hey, let's put it out to the world and see the results that come back, and hopefully it works.
Yeah.
And it seems like it worked.
Well,
so
I'm excited. Everything's going back to normal. The gym that I go to, hopefully I'm going to shoot out a text to the owner and see if He'll stop forcing us to wear our masks.
I'm not
Because
vaccinated.
talk about a workout when you're having to do kung fu and everything, and you still have a mask on and you can't breathe. It's your heart rate stays up there pretty quickly.
Not supposed to.
But yeah, so I mean, they're saying that the vaccines are 97% effective against symptomatic COVID-19 and 86 effective against asymptomatic infection in over 5,000 healthcare workers. They're saying over 117 million Americans have been fully vaccinated. So, I mean, everything is good. And there's even some rumors and reports saying that there may not be a need for a booster shot. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe we beat this thing. I don't know, but I'm just excited that things are going back to normal, that we can start kind of, get back to life. Businesses can open up, fully open up and be able to operate like we used to, right? So I think it's excellent news, but all this news comes in and we have just massive threats of like just out of control inflation that we're having right now. And of course, you ask the government, and they're saying, nope. You ask the Federal Reserve, no, this isn't any inflation.
Temporary. It's temporary inflation.
Yeah,
It's
you guys are focusing on the wrong numbers. That's the problem. So it's not that unemployment was expected to come in at 1 million and it came in at
job creation came in at 1 million.
Yeah, job creation was supposed to come in at 1 million and it came in at just over a quarter mil.
Yeah, 266.
I mean, so that takes us to our first thing. Our first point here is GOP-led states are cutting the $300 weekly federal unemployment benefits. And so far, we have Alabama came out and said, we have announced that the end date of our state of emergency, there are no industry shutdowns, and daycares are operating with no restrictions. Vaccinations are available for all adults. Alabama is giving the federal government our 30-day notice that it's time to get back to work. You have Arkansas, Idaho, you have Iowa, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, North Dakota, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, and Wyoming are all joining the same fight. They're all pretty much ending at the end of June. So they're ending the $300 because their argument, which I agree with, is that this extra benefit that they're given, this extra $300, is incentivizing people to.
Well, I mean, before we even get into that, let's back up like what's causing this, of like why these numbers, why these states are wanting to get back out of that. I mean, so well, they're saying like leading into it, it's like the April's expected hiring boom. They're expecting 1 million people, and it came in at 266. Unemployment rose when they expected it to fall. From like widely across the economies. I mean, if you watch the CNBC article where the guy like read it, he like freaked out in the air and was like, let me check those numbers. I don't know. I think that these numbers are wrong. So unemployment was expected to go up by 1 million. Employment, jobs creation was to go up by 1 million, and it only came in at 266. That's a huge miss. And it actually came in lower than expected the previous month as well.
Well, usually it comes off what the expectation is, but it doesn't come off by 700,000. Like, I mean, it's never been off by pretty much 3/4 of what the projection was. Like it's the job creation number has never been off that high.
That high. And then this prompted almost immediately for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. All right? The Chamber of Commerce is the chamber that oversees commerce. They're the largest business lobbying group in America. And this is on Friday. They blamed the $300 per week federal jobless benefit for enticing Americans to stay at home and April's far weaker than expected jobs report. The disappointing jobs report makes it clear that paying people not to work is dampening what should be stronger job markets. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce said in the House the hours after the Labor Department released its April 2021 employment report. One step policymakers should take now is ending the $300 weekly supplement unemployment benefit, the lobbying group added, based on the chamber's analysis. The $300 benefit results in approximately 1 in 4 recipients taking home more in unemployment than they earned by working. The group against the federal unemployment benefit came hours after, so just hours. So like it's not like it took that long. The second it came out, they kind of basically said, "I told you so. This was going to happen. This was going to result of this $300 extra unemployment benefit," and they blamed it on that. So now you have your article with the states coming out and saying like, "We're done with this crap. We're not going to pay it anymore."
So you have all those states that are coming out. They're saying it's done pretty much at the end of June, and then you have the White House says that White House has not found data to back up claims that the enhanced unemployment benefits are behind the labor shortage. There have been numerous reports recently about businesses not being able to find enough workers to fill positions, especially in notoriously low-paying industries like restaurants and hospitality work. As more of those businesses reopen, there is also the need to pay a livable working wage. We don't see much evidence that the extra unemployment insurance is a major driver in people not rejoining the workforce, says the speaker lady for Biden. There are other factors, bigger factors, that have been contributing to the numbers we saw on Friday. The Labor Department reported, well, what John just said, the 266 jobs were added instead of the 1 million. And the number of unemployed Americans rose to 9.7 million in March, to from 9.7 to 9.8 million. Federal benefits, which are paid on top of the state benefits, are scheduled to continue until September 6th unless states opt out of the federal government's supplemental unemployment benefits. So they are saying that the $300 extra that they're given is not incentivizing people to stay home. There's no proof of that. To me, it's just, I don't see how that there's, that's not the cost. If people are collecting unemployment, plus they're collecting an extra $300 a week for all these lower entry level jobs, why would they go do them? They're getting paid the same, if not more, to just stay home. And they don't even have to prove anymore that they can't get a job. They just have to file for it. They just have to ask for it, and that's it.
They don't have to continue to look for work or say they're looking for work or anything.
Right.
It's like, I'm just staying at home
and
doing it.
So, I mean, while that's crazy already, we also have your uncle, Bernie Sanders, came out and said that he's who's in charge of the, what's it called? Department of Labor. So they said, even though these states are opting to remove this, the federal government is going to step in and give that money anyway to those people in those states. So even though states, supposedly, to my understanding, had the opportunity to govern themselves, Bernie Sanders is saying that the federal government, even though these states are going to cut it, the Department of Labor is going to step in and make sure that those people still get their money.
Curious is like, how are you going to do that? Because each state runs their own unemployment system.
Yeah.
The state issues the money, and then the federal government gives it to the state sends it to them. So how are they going to bypass the system? All of it's set up through the states. So how are you going to bypass this and say, oh, we're still going to give it to them? Is it just Bernie Sanders talking fluff? Or is the government, like the government does, it's like you don't have the systems to create that to where you can get to these people because they file through the states.
Right.
And the states don't give you the information. How do you know who's filing for unemployment?
Yeah. So, I mean, they're saying, he came out and said, he's like, this is insane that you guys are doing this. But they said the way that the CARES Act is written requires Department of Labor to provide pandemic unemployment assistance. So they're going to be doing it through that law, where they're going to be providing this extra benefit. And they've got a sort of statutory duty to do that. So they're saying that the Department of Labor is going to come in anyway, and they're saying that all these states are, they're completely wrong, and this is going to hurt Americans. But here's my thing, my argument on all this is that how is this not affecting the labor market when you are you're paying people pretty much to stay home? Now, one thing I did like is Montana is getting away with it, but they're doing a $1,200 get back to work incentive. So for the people that do get a job, they're going to get a $1,200 check written to them.
Wow.
So to me, I'm like, that's a much better incentive, and they're saying, oh, well, the problem is, these companies, they're not paying enough. They're entry-level jobs. You understand? Like, yes, they may suck. And
Yeah.
like they've never been amazing jobs. Like talk about a way to force the rise of minimum wage without forcing the rise of minimum wage.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that's the direct result of this, right? Like
Yeah.
it's created such a shortage in employment, such a shortage, and this is what's creating that chain effect that we talk about of lumber prices going up, supply chains being affected, everything, because it all starts with, you know, lower income people, like people entry-level jobs. Like those. Everything is connected. So we're seeing this, and this is creating such a massive shortage in employment, which is creating the further increase of inflation that we're seeing, because now people cannot afford to produce the amount they used to produce. So the little that they can produce, they got to sell it at a higher price. The people buying it are paying more. They got to resell their stuff at a higher price. So it's like it's boosting up prices. It's increasing prices for everything.
Well, that's just to me, like it reinforces the fact that like when you force higher wages, that does nothing more but hurt the people that you're trying to benefit by increasing their wages. Because those costs just get passed straight through. Like Bet David talked about it when he's like, corporations don't pay taxes.
Right.
And he's like, you raise their taxes, yes, they may make more money, but all they do is they pass that tax straight on to the end consumer. They don't pay the tax. Like it goes from 21 to 28 or whatever they're trying to raise. It's like all that's going to do is increase your prices. It's like they don't pay taxes. It just their margins, those big corporations that everyone hates so much, their margins are locked in pretty much.
Yeah.
They can't really fluctuate on large scales. So when you move their taxes up, all they do is they cut jobs or they raise prices to take into account for that. It makes it more stressful and less of a great place to work at that point. So like they don't pay the tax. It passes straight through. So it hurts those people that you're trying to benefit. It's like McDonald's workers, labor workers at like Amazon and things like that. It's like it makes all your entry-level consumer goods go through the roof. Gas prices go up, which now hurts people even more. So it's like it doesn't work.
And it's exactly right. They keep talking about how we need to help those less fortunate, the people that are not making enough, all of this. This inflation is hurting them directly because food costs gone way up.
Go try to buy a house with an FHA loan right now.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not even go try to get an FHA loan. You'll get one. You just can't get a house.
Yeah.
Because you're being outbid by people that have cash left and right. So all of these incentives, all these things are hurting them even more. And this is what we always talk about, always, is that the more you try to give to people, the more you're hurting them.
Yeah.
You know, and I even heard it just recently. Tony Robbins did an interview with an economist, and Tony Robbins, for everybody that knows him, if you don't, Google. But he's big on psychology and you know how to be happy, how to be fulfilled, all these things, right? And he says, giving people like a universal basic income and stuff like that, he's like, you're gonna create a lot more depression. People need to feel like they're contributing. He says it's a human need. He says it's not, you know, a certain class or a certain kind of people. Like, it's a human need. You need to feel like you're doing something useful, something productive. You understand? And getting paid to do something useful, something productive is what makes you feel really good. That's like, I got rewarded for doing this. Now you're getting rewarded for doing nothing. It gets to a point where at first it's great, but after a while it's like,
I mean, it's a short boost. I mean, just like, oh, I got a huge raise. And then think about it, when you're working, and all of a sudden your boss comes and, hey, we're going to give you a bonus. Hey, we're going to raise your income and stuff like that. And like, you feel really cool, like awesome. Like, man, I'm making more money. That first paycheck comes in, that second paycheck, third paycheck, fourth paycheck. By that fifth, sixth, it's just the new status quo. Yep. And it is what it is. And you go back to your previous feelings about your job, whether good or bad. But it's like, it's a short-term boost that doesn't last very long. And in trying to increase these wages, giving things for free to people, it's like, it doesn't work. And then like one of the articles to add with it, like who's is hurt, like restaurants. Like, I mean, talk about an industry that in leisure and hospitality, the service workers to service foods and these big conventions, like they're not really high paid job. They're very low skill required stuff. It's like you're just taking food to somebody. It's like, and those industries were the hardest hit. in this whole COVID thing. They had the most layoffs, the most job closures or businesses that shut down. And now they're trying to come back, and everyone's got money going out. Like, man, I'm so excited to go out and eat. I'm so excited to go to these conventions. And then they cannot hire the people to go work. Yeah. So one of the articles is titled "Restaurants Are Sucking Wind, but Fighting Back Amid a Worker Shortage." And some of the stuff they're doing, trying to hire people, is just insane. To where it's like, tell me, I'm reading this and tell me that $300 to sit at home isn't hurting these people. So the article starts out, it's like, some businesses survived thanks to government assistance, takeout businesses, and the luck of the draw, but many did not. On top of that, they're now faced with a crippling worker shortage, as well as regulatory and legislative obstacles. Now, keep in mind, this was done by CNBC, which usually does not give conservative views. Right. So, like, they're even coming out saying, like, you got a problem here. More than 110,000 bars and restaurants shut their doors for good in 2020, according to the National Restaurant Association. In most states, harsh lockdown measures imposed to combat COVID-19 forced businesses that already operated at low margins to shut completely, then reopen with mostly limited capacity. So, like, margins of bars and restaurants, like, you worked in the restaurant industry, like, you don't have 50% margins on your food. Like, you're like 5. Like, you sell a meal for $10 and you might make like 50 cents off
you have
it or something.
You have the margin on the food, but it's everything else that goes with running the restaurants, the employees, all the stuff that's like, no, they're not making that much money.
So, but as vaccinations provide hope in a pandemic fight, the fortunes may start turning for hospitality-focused businesses. So Gutstuma is preparing for a summer he anticipates as potentially record-breaking in terms of demand, but fears a significant problem on the other end: supply, as in getting enough labor to meet all the customers hungry to get out and get back to dining out again. In a situation hardly unique to bars and restaurants, Gutstuma sums up, this is a restaurant owner in Philadelphia, sums up the essential challenge now. Plentiful positions open, but extremely difficult in filling them due to the number of factors. There are enhanced unemployment benefits. Well, the article even calls this out. There are enhanced unemployment benefits that the U.S. Chamber of Commerce says serves as a disincentive for lower paid workers to return to their jobs. There are also skill mismatches, resulting in workers struggling to adapt to new disciplines, as well as lingering fears over the pandemic future path that is still keeping some at home. So he even says, like, we've increased wages. Yeah. We have about 3 different staffing agencies that are constantly looking for people. Other restaurants are walking around neighborhoods passing out flyers. The heroes in our communities are the people currently working for you and me. These people are burnt out. April's non-farm payroll, we already talked about that. Some economists cited enhanced unemployment benefits as drivers behind the shortness of labor, while others said the count could have been just a statistical anomaly. That's what I was like, okay, that's a great way to put it. Statistical anomaly that we were short 300,000 or 700,000 employees in our job reports of what we were expecting to come out.
It was a computer glitch.
Yeah, computer glitch. But it's just saying, like, that they're calling it out. It's like those restaurant workers, those people wanting to get out, like, it's like they're not there. They don't want to come. Like, I remember seeing a sign posted on, like, is a restaurant, Burger King or something like that, and it says, please be nice to our employees. It's like, because, like, we're extremely short staffed, and the ones that are showing up, and we, like, hands off to the employees that are actually showing up. Yeah. It's like, because the others don't want to come back to work. So it's like, when they need 5 people to run the restaurant, 10 people are in the restaurant, and like 2 people are showing up, causing a massive shortage, and people are getting pissed off at them because it's taking so long to get their food. And it's like, they're doing all they can. Like, they're actually showing up to work.
The thing is, like, what they're trying to fight for, and what I feel is it's dumb, in my opinion, is that they want you to work at a McDonald's or, you know, even like we talk about the hospitality industry, all that, and for that to be your only job, your only one job. And it's like, I'm sorry, those are low-skilled jobs. Those are entry-level jobs. That's something for you to just get into the workforce, prove that you're dependable, prove that you show up on time, that you're hardworking.
Build some references.
Yeah, and then you build up from there, right? Yeah. Like, that's the whole point of it. That's the whole purpose of all of those jobs. You can't be making a living off of those, because that affects the rest of the industries. Because now you increase the wages for that. Okay, increase the wages. Go ahead. Increase them to what you feel is justified. Now, the same restaurant or the same event space or whatever has to increase their charges that much more because they can't afford it. You understand? Now the people that are booking them got to pay more and they got to make more. So at the end of the day, everything else goes up, and guess where we're at?
Right back to where we started.
It's just, it cannot be even. You understand? For something to have value, something else can't.
It's a short-term boost. Like, yes, they'll go up for a short period of time, but as the economy rolls back around, all those price adjustments in back onto it, like everything's gonna be right back. Food costs are higher, living costs are higher, energy's higher, water's higher, everything's higher. To where it's like you didn't increase anything. So it's like your education and your skill set needs to be what improves. And paying you more money to do the same job does not increase your skill set or your value to the economy,
right,
or to the world.
And that's what's creating all the food prices going up, lumber prices. I was reading an article too about farmers. They're like, we can't find labor, we can't find workers. It's not that nature stopped producing stuff or that cows fell off the face of the earth or trees stopped growing. It's that we can't find the people that we need. And what this is going to do is, again, these are the things that I see that keep hurting the same people that supposedly they're trying to help. Because now what ends up happening, these companies start figuring out ways that they can do it with less people. Ways that they can do this without people.
You're going to eliminate jobs from the freaking economy. It's like entrepreneurs are going to see an opportunity. Like we need to figure out how to like make these businesses more efficient. What are we going to do? Automate technology, eliminate new ways of creating food, new ways to do things. As Molly put in here, she's in the event industry. So events are coming back. The amount of weddings we see this summer and fall are crazy, but we are short in labor. To set up an event takes many, many hands. The staff working right now are burnt out. They are working crazy hours and doing the same amount of work of what we did pre-COVID. Yeah, and she said to the yes, be kind. These staffers need a kind smile and friendly attitudes when you speak with them. That is going to make their day. Because it's like, if you're working, it's like you're the only person that is willing to work. You're working from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. 6-7 days a week, because like you have to have it. You need somebody there in order to fulfill these events. So
it's something that, and I also had seen something about how COVID has caused higher burnout rates, right? Because they've been saying the same thing. There's less people working, so the people that are working are having to do more.
Yeah,
and it gets to a point where, and I've seen this even with my sister. I mean, my sister, she's a freaking hustler. That girl gets as many jobs as she needs. Like, she doesn't make excuses for anything. She just goes out and gets it done, right? But it doesn't matter how much money she makes. What matters is how fulfilled you are in the job you're doing, right? And that's what's lacking, because a lot of these, like, they're not supposed to be fulfilling jobs. They're supposed to literally be stepping stones.
Yeah.
You know, and now you're in a job that was supposed to be a stepping stone, and you're trying to make that a career. And then you're struggling. Like, no, there's a reason why people had 2 or 3 jobs, and why you have to, because it's like something needs to motivate you to want to do something better.
Yeah.
Right? And if you start taking that motivation away and everything, like, it's just not going to work. It's not, and it's already proven that it's not going to work. You give them more money, what's happening? This happens. More unemployment, less people going to work, depression is going up, use of medical drugs has been going up, alcohol abuse has been going up. All those have been going up because why? People are losing their meaning. People are losing their purpose in life, where they're feeling so
that excitement. That need is like, I have things I need to do today, and I have something to look forward to in my life.
Well, and why is it? And why has it always been? I've known this even as a kid, is that you retire and you die. Like, it's always been the same thing that it's always been told to me as a kid. They're like, as soon as you retire, you die. And you look at the stats, and it's like most people that retire, like a few years later, they end up dying because they have no more purpose. They have nothing else. Like, they may have the money to live, but what's the quality of life without purpose, without contribution? So you're taking all this away. And now here's another article that I saw in California. Governor Gavin Newsom is trying his hardest to get reelected. Governor Gavin announced the largest state tax rebate in U.S. history. So California's going to come back roaring, said Governor Gavin, on Monday as he announced his $100 billion California comeback plan.
Oh my God.
Yep. He called it the biggest economic recovery package in state's history, including unprecedented investments to address the region's most persistent challenges, starting with nearly $12 billion in direct cash payments to Californians hit hardest by the pandemic. According to Newsom's office, it is the largest tax rebate by any state in American history year over year. Chief among the new proposals is major expansion of the Golden State stimulus, providing additional direct payments to middle-class families that make up to $75,000. Under the plan, 2/3 of Californians will benefit from $600 direct payments. Qualified families with dependents, included undocumented families, will also now be eligible for an additional $500. The plan triples California's previous investment, reaching more people and giving bigger benefits. California's recovery is well underway, but we can't be satisfied with simply going back to the way things were, said Newsom. We are tripling the Golden State stimulus to get money in the hands of the middle class Californians who have been hit hard by this pandemic. 2 in 3 Californians will receive a check from the state, and more than $5 billion in aid will be made available to those who need help paying their rent and utility bills. Under Newsom's California comeback plan, the state would also offer the largest renter assistance package of any state in America, with billions of dollars to help low-income Californians pay back 100% of their rent for the months to come, and overdue water and utility bills. Those efforts are budgeted at a little over $7 billion. The governor, who faces a recall election later this year, what a surprise, pointed out that last year the state was projected to have $53 billion budget shortfall, which this year has become a $75.7 billion budget surplus. It's remarkable turnaround, he said. Newsom's $100 billion California comeback plan will be funded by that surplus, and he said an additional $26 billion coming from the federal government. Wow. So
one thing I love that it's like in California, though, they have their problems with their pension plans and their taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like now for once they have or not for once, maybe they've had it in the past, I don't know, but they have this budget surplus, and then immediately they're going to go spend it. No, we're not going to lower taxes anywhere. We're not going to give relief that way to them. No, we're just going to give cash to people. And it's like, and we're going to keep all our taxes high. And they're raising their taxes on the highest income earners to 17% or something like that. So they're raising their taxes, but now you have this budget surplus. How about you just give tax breaks instead of sucking more money from the government? How about you just say, well, you know what? We're just going to lower your taxes that are going to help you over the time and incentivize them. So instead of saying hey, we want the entrepreneurs and the business owners, give them relief to create jobs, we're just going to give cash to these people so that the ever consuming government can just get larger. And one thing that's crazy when you're reading that, so they're giving it the extra $600 to people that make $75,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after $75,000, it phases out. California's not a cheap place to live. 2 in 3 Californians will receive a check. To me, it's so 2 in 3 people make 75 grand or less living in California. My God.
Well, I mean, it is a big state. So when you remove, what is it, the 3 major areas in California, LA, San Diego, and San Francisco, everything else I think normalizes a little bit more. So it might be something because of that, and then they're also including undocumented families.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of undocumented workers, they don't report 100% of what they make, if they report anything at all. Right. So it's, you don't know, it's going to be a large number. My thing is, he says, to help the recovery. Not one thing in the article or anything that he said shows how you're going to help the economy. You're just saying how you're giving people money.
Yeah.
But what are you doing for businesses that actually produce consistent money, right? Employment, paying people wages, all that. What are you doing for businesses to come back to California out of all the ones that have left?
Yeah,
And
what's your
continue to
relief?
leave?
Like, instead of like you have this massive budget surplus, and it's like we're just gonna give it back to the people. It's like back to the same thing. It's like, how about you lower the freaking taxes on some of these hard hit businesses, on your middle class, like it's like your income drivers, the people that produce for your economy, people that would like make businesses want to come to California and start businesses there by lowering taxes, making a more business friendly state, so you don't get decimated by places like Tennessee, Florida, Texas, Idaho, where your businesses are running too.
And what I'm seeing with all this is that it's getting to a point where we've seen in Argentina and other countries where you pretty much, now it's to a point where you give people a sandwich and a Coke and they'll vote for you. You know what I mean? Like, you're buying votes.
Oh, yeah, this right here where it's
I
like
mean,
he's facing a recall election, and now it's like, well, we're going to come out and give a whole bunch of money to a whole bunch of people, and that's how we're going to get voted.
So, kind of moving on from that a little bit. Are you good with all that? Anything?
No,
as far as that goes?
That
Oh, one thing I did want to touch on, though, one thing that I did find interesting is some CEOs are starting to drop their degree requirements in hiring. So because of the labor shortages and everything that we're seeing a lot of CEOs of major companies, they're starting to just say, you know what? We're not requiring you to have a bachelor's degree or anything like that. Like, if you have certain skill sets or whatever, and they're saying that this is going to be a great help for the minorities and for everybody that, you know, that haven't been able to go to college, but maybe have the skill sets to get that kind of job, right? Because they're smart, they're hardworking and all that. So a lot of big companies are starting to just drop the whole, and this is something that we've talked about, and I believe wholeheartedly, where colleges are not what they used to be. You know, right now there's more and more jobs being created that don't really require your traditional college degree for
college degrees anymore. It's like a lot of them are a joke. Yeah. And that it comes down to, like, anytime the government steps in and subsidizes something, like, you just create massive amounts of waste. Look at our healthcare system. You look at the student loan debt that's come out, when it's like, hey, kids can go to school and they can get like these super low loans, and the government's going to back them because banks didn't want to do it. They're too high risk, too high default rates. Yeah. So they're like, the free market's like, no, we're not going to do this because they're just too high risk. They have no credit. Where government comes in and says, we're going to give them to everybody. So now where does that money flow? The universities. Every kid goes to the university, can get free money, and that money goes right to the university. And then now you have freaking football stadiums for UT that are larger than any NFL stadium. And they have nicer equipment than NFL stadiums. To where, like, in these campuses, to where it's like they have to reinvest, because if they don't put the money into the universities to make these elaborate, fancy, high-end, beautiful-looking campuses, the next campus is going to do it. Well, where do they get that money? They get it from the students, who get it from the government. Yeah. And it's like, so it's not being reinvested into teachers and education. It's been into the amenities that make people just want to come so they can sustain their jobs.
And don't get me wrong, where I do believe that higher level education is necessary for a lot of things, right? You want to become a doctor, you want to become an attorney, you want to become something along those lines. You do need higher level education.
Oh, my favorite one is like a degree in entrepreneurship
or marketing.
How are you going to hire somebody for entrepreneurship? Because then, like, an entrepreneur doesn't hire an entrepreneur to be an entrepreneur. It's like, no, because you're just going to come in my business and then you're going to take it and you're going to go start your own. Right. And it's like, they're telling me, like, you're going to got this degree that says you want to go out on your own. So why would I hire somebody that's obviously just going to leave?
Yeah. Well, it's that, and the same for, like, marketing. I do a lot of the marketing, and it changes very, very quickly. Are you telling me these colleges are adapting that fast to what's been changing in marketing space? Come on. You know what I mean? Like, these are things that's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're definitely, those kids and stuff, I think you're going to college for fun. You know what I mean? You're going because it's a good time.
Well, it's also one of the things, like, you look at the previous generation, like our parents and the now coming up to where it's like, college was a thing that you needed to go do when they were kids. So they were programmed. It's like, hey, you need a degree to move up in these degrees or up in the career path. And that made sense back then. But now it's gotten to such a mass scale that it's like, okay, that's now not working, because you can get all these fluff degrees that mean nothing, saddle you with debt. They don't provide any real value to the economy. Yeah. Besides, like, you just have a degree. Like,
Yeah, I think colleges and the education system overall needs to adapt and modify it to a more hands-on kind of learning. So let's say you want to learn marketing or something, then it's like, okay, you can go to school for marketing, but it's going to be marketing in the now, right? You're going to be going to school for perhaps you're going to be going to school at Google, right? You're going to be
Yeah.
going to school at Facebook, at whatever other major
Well, I
company.
mean, Amazon, Walmart, they're all doing it.
Anybody,
So, like,
any major company is doing massive amount of marketing. They're going to have a schooling program that you can go to, and you're going to learn marketing in the now
Yeah.
because you're learning what is working
it
for
just
them.
shows that, like, it's like the private sector versus the government, where it's like the government was trying to incentivize education, get people more educated for the private sector. The private sector said, oh, that worked for a while, but now it's not working anymore, and you're failing us, so we are going to reinvest and do it ourselves.
Well, and it's not even just to blame the government, right? Because it's difficult, like we talked before, for the government to adapt at the speed that the market can adapt to, right? Because like we talked about before, you come out with a bill, it doesn't get executed. Now, in order to even execute it, you got to come out with another bill to execute the bill that you can. You know, it's so much
Yeah.
policy, so much crap
There's
going
not
on.
enough. It's not based on like decision makers. It's based on votes.
Yeah,
and voters
and opinions, and the majority of them, it's based on people that have no idea what the hell they're talking about, right? Like they're career politicians, don't even know what it is to be in the workforce anymore. So it's like you have all that coming up, and I think the free market did a great job where they're like, all right, let me take that back. You know, you can't adapt this quickly. So now the government needs to modify that. You know, instead of trying to over-regulate again, why don't you try to deregulate a little bit and pull back some of the things a little bit?
I was texting with a friend of mine. It's like, that's never an answer, though.
No.
Like, deregulate. It's like, let's remove some of these barriers. Let's go back, instead of passing new laws, let's go back and see what old laws can be eliminated to things move faster. But it's like, that's not the government's nature. The government is just like a corporation, the fact that it wants to grow.
Yeah.
It needs to grow and survive and wants to flourish. So, like, having a bunch of red tape, a lot of things that increase costs and clog things up, makes the government bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's a perfect.
Yeah, I
segue
was
into
gonna
an
say,
article, like,
so
you have right there for the regulatory costs.
There's an article here that I was reading that regulatory costs add nearly $94,000 to new home prices. So a recent study by the National Associations of Home Builder found that regulations imposed by all levels of government on new homes account for $93,870, or 23.8% of the current average sale price of $397,000. So you're building a house that's selling for $400,000. You are spending nearly $94,000 just on the government regulation side of it. All right, that's to the builder. So when people say, "Oh, builders are greedy and everything," try to look at the numbers. Out of the $94,000, $41,000 is attributed to regulation during development, and $52,000 is due to regulation during construction. The study was filled out by 2,071
National Home Builder Association members.
Yes. I was trying to, numbers. I get a little dyslexic. And 57 developers. And nearly all of the builders, 98.9% per the study, reported experiencing some type of regulatory cost during construction. Added together, the average of these costs across all homes in the report accounted for 21.5% of the builder's construction costs and 13.3% of the final house price. So, I mean, it's an insane amount, right? And then you have lumber prices have tripled over the past 12 months and are causing the price of the average new single-family home to increase by $35,000. That is a huge amount. As of the beginning of May, the price of framing lumber is nearly $1,500 per 1,000 board feet. That's up more than 250% since April of 2020, which was $350 per 1,000. So before April 2020, it was $350 per 1,000. Right now, it's $1,500 per thousand. I
The
mean,
highest it's ever been.
it's beyond nuts how but it's not just it's the highest it's ever been, but in the period of time, in less than a year, it went up that high.
That's
So-
what's crazy. Like I was walking around Home Depot and I sent you guys a picture yesterday that a half-inch piece of plywood. Plywood is a big component to construction. It's what's on the outside of your house. It's what's underneath your siding. It's what's underneath your roof. There's a lot of sheets of plywood go into your house, and that sucker was $48. And that's like
My God.
$48 a year ago was under 10. So you're saying this thing has rose $40? Like that's like 500% increase. I know lumber across the board is at 250%.
Yeah, these are averages. Yeah.
Plywood is up 500%.
Well, it's the same like what we talked about, the inflation and food costs and everything. There's an average inflation, but in particular areas, it's gone up drastically. You're talking about, 10x on a lot of things. So
Yeah.
you're looking at plywood. I mean, I remember when I was doing construction, plywood, I mean, there were times that you have extra plywood, and it's like, well, whatever. It just sat
Throw it out.
outside.
It's not worth going to return this thing anymore. It's
No,
like let's go to back to Home Depot for the $8 here. It's not worth it. But
It's
now,
not.
like I get a sheet of plywood. That's 50 freaking bucks.
Yeah.
Like to where now it's like, man, I'm thinking about taking some of our houses apart and go sell them for parts.
They're
I was like, let's
just in
deconstruct it and
materials.
resell it. Yeah. I was gonna take my house apart and just go start selling off pieces of siding.
So let me finish this. So it says this study illustrates how overregulation is exacerbating the nation's housing affordability crisis, and that policymakers need to take bold steps to reduce or eliminate unnecessary regulation that will help builders increase the production of quality, affordable housing to meet growing market demand. So you're looking at, like we talk about, nearly a quarter of the cost to build a new home is going to regulations. And we see it ourselves. We're building a house right now.
Yeah,
We
currently.
bought a house, a lot that had a slab
3 months ago.
already in place. The slab was there, right? There was a
Yep.
house sitting there.
At some point.
At some point, there was a house sitting there. We bought it because we are going to build a house right where it was, right? Just like anybody else would. All of a sudden, the city has a problem where the slab is.
Because of some zoning regulation or something in the code that's like, this slab is non-conforming. It needs to be 5 feet away from the lot line, and it's right on the lot line. It's like, the house was there. It was built there in the 80s. Like, what do you mean I can't put a house back on the top of something where it was actually at originally? Well, it's just not. It doesn't work. You can't build there, and we're just stopped dead in the water. To where like we got another month before we can try to resolve this issue.
And that's where I was gonna get to, right? Like we've talked to a few people, and they're like, "No, you'll be okay. You just got to present it in front of whatever the hell the board is,
Board of Adjusters,
the Board of Adjusters, and all that, and most likely it'll get approved." Okay, so when is that? Well, you got to wait. Like at the time, it was like over a month now for that next meeting. It's like,
and you got to pay $600 to go in front of that board. This is the city's problem. The city created this issue with the way they did the zoning, the way they did permits sometime in the past. Now, and that's why I was getting so mad there and I was trying to be so respectful, but I was getting so frustrated. It's like, I'm not trying to get mad at me. You have to realize like where my frustration is coming from. You're telling me the city screwed up 50 years ago in allowing this to happen, or whenever this happened in the past, this issue happened.
Yeah.
I'm trying to build a house on top of what the slab already is. It's right there. And now you're telling me I have to pay you $600 to fix your issue. And it's like, and not only that, I don't have to wait 6 weeks to get in front of a board to potentially fix this issue. And I can't even finish going through the city to get my permits until that issue resolved. So now I have to wait 6 weeks to get in front of you, pay you for that. I now have to pay interest. Lumber prices are increasing ever so much every single day, going up. And then now I get through your 6-week process. I get approved. I still have to go through and finish my permits because you've now stopped me at step 3 and I got to get to step 10 in order to submit my drawings and my plans.
so now here's the question for these very smart regulators. Who do you think is going to pay for all that extra?
The end consumer.
What the hell else do we do? Like, it's not that, people say, oh, you builders, investors, you guys are the problem. It's like, it's not us. Like, we sell at what the market is. But if you're causing these delays, all of these things, it's costing us more money on bureaucracy, because at the end of the day, you are all telling me that we'll be okay. We just got to do this formality that's going to delay us 6 weeks. So that's money costs, holding costs. Lumber keeps
prices,
going up.
yep.
So we are losing a tremendous amount of money waiting these 6 weeks. And then at the end of those 6 weeks, everything goes well. We got to still submit because we can't submit. We can't get ahead of it anyway. So it's like we can't do anything until that happens.
Yeah, because they won't let me submit until I have a complete package. Like there's other issues and things I need to fix that are easy fixes.
Of course.
No problem. But now it's like, well, you can't submit that until you solve this issue. It's like, why can't I get through the rest of this damn thing and say, pending this review, you're good to go?
And then the other thing that gets very frustrating working with the city is that, you know, they see that, right? And let's say there's already another issue that we could potentially solve right now on the same docket for the same board. They're not going to address that, or they're not even going to tell you about it. So once you address the first issue, you're like, okay, so we addressed it. Cool, let's go. Yeah, but now you have this issue.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me that before? So we addressed it. Well, you have it now, so wait another 6 weeks.
Yep.
What the hell?
And this is like,
seriously,
this slab has been sitting here for years, not being built on because of this BS that you guys have. And it's a perfectly good slab. But because, we created this extra level of bureaucracy, it's now 5 feet over where it's allowed to be. And it's like, oh my God, how is there not? Like, well, there's a process to resolve these issues. That takes forever. And then I have to pay to solve your issues. But it's one of the things, like, we have somebody that works within the city, sits on some of these boards. And he's like, I originally joined this board to see if I could help try to fix these issues. But then I very quickly realized that it's a revenue generator for the city. They don't want to fix it. They want these processes to have to pay them to generate revenue for the city. That's all it is. And it's like,
well, and people say that, you know, I'm cynical or whatever, because like I say, like, guys, how much do you guys want for this? You know, what do you want? $600, $1,000? Okay, here, can I cut you the check and can you just let me go through? Oh, that's not the guy. Come on. You know, you're full of shit. You want the $1,000. Can I just give you $1,000? Because it's still cheaper than waiting these 6 weeks. And the same with inspectors, the same with everything. It's that handout that they want, where it's like, well, how about you tell me what the handout is beforehand so I can give it to you so you don't hurt me even more?
Yeah.
Because it's not the handout means absolutely nothing. It's the delays that are killing us.
Yep.
You know, and that's the stuff that they just don't think or just could care less about.
Yeah, they don't care.
And that's the stuff. It's like everything. This is what I try to tell people, and where people just don't understand and they get upset with me, is that everything is a domino effect, right? This affects this, which affects this, and everything comes back around and hits everybody. Those dominoes are going to hit everybody. So you hurting us here is still going to hurt you. You don't understand that. Like, nobody's looking. They're looking at it. Screw them. It's the builders. Screw them. It's the investors. They got money.
Well, it's also higher prices, real estate prices. What's that do? Generate more revenue for the city.
More
because
taxes.
Now they can the higher property taxes.
Yeah.
And that's just like, oh my God. And one thing I was talking with a friend of mine about this, and it's just, all right. So plywood's up 500%. Okay.
Okay.
Who is making that money? Because prices went from $8 to $48 a sheet.
Inflation. Nobody's making it.
But but where's that money going? That extra $40, where is it going? Who's getting it?
It's going through the supply chain.
And that's what I said. It's like, so is it? He's like, because he's debating. He lives up in Seattle, and he's like, we're debating of like selling off some of our land, timber, to go to generate some revenue. He's like, but the landowner's not getting the money from the timber, so the beginning of the supply chain isn't getting the prices.
I was about to say, why the hell would he sell the land? You're sitting
not the land, selling the trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's like, but we're not getting it. Okay, you're not getting it.
What do you mean he's not getting it?
Like, he's not getting like an exuberant amount of extra money for the timber than what he would have gotten a year ago.
Why not?
Because it's not there. It's like they're not. It's like that's what I said. Like, who's making that extra $40? So like the person selling the lumber is not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
The developer at the end of the chain's not getting it from the sales price. It's like, so instead of like, because they say like, they say developers are making all this extra money. Well, obviously we're not. So I go say, well, Home Depot's making all the money because I buy it from them. Home Depot goes, no, this is our price and the price increase we've saved.
Yeah, it's
so
the
then
same.
It just goes down.
It's gone up.
So where in that supply chain, or is everybody's making more money, but they just don't realize it's like, because that piece of plywood touches 40 people along the way.
Right.
So every person's making an extra $1, but they don't realize they're making an extra $1.
Yeah.
Along the entire way.
So that's not even the problem. Like I think everybody along the way, like even your friend, right? He's not getting maybe what he thought he would be getting, but he's still getting more than what he would have a year ago. So he's already getting some of that money.
He's getting $1.
Right. And
the
then
the next guy,
the problem is that he all of a sudden says, I want more than $1. Right? I want $3 more. So then the person buying it says, F you, I'm not paying you $3 more. I'll just try to go somewhere else, or I'll wait you out. So now this starts causing delays. And that's where I think we're seeing the big drastic increase. And it's the same thing like we talked about, I believe it was last week, with that lady was telling me about the cattle issue, right? Is that you have the person selling the cattle saying, no, I want more for my cow. And the butchers or whoever it is that are buying it, they're like, screw you, I'm not paying that much more. So now there's a shortage of meat. So I think you have that kind of, that needs to, once it'll level off at some point.
Like, and that's what Chris,
but it's just initially, I think.
What is the definition of inflation? It's too many dollars chasing too few of goods. So now it's like when they pumped that much money into the system, created massive amounts of liquidity. That's why, because people are willing to pay that amount because they have the extra cash to do it. It's like, well, I got this loan. I need to stay in business so I can afford to pay you instead of $1. I'm going to pay you $1.50.
Yeah.
Well, then the next guy is like, well, I'm going to do the exact same thing. So you have a lot of extra cash chasing too few of goods, and it's ending up in everybody's pockets spread around the place. But what's the problem with that is like, it's a self-reinforcing cycle going up towards like, well, the end consumer is like, well, we have to raise prices. Well, as long as the end consumer pays that price, it reinforces the behavior all the way down the supply chain until it stops. Interest rates rise. People run out of money. People find housing. Inventory rises. It's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's the problem with the overall inflation. When you pump that much money into and just giving it to everybody, is now they just go out and spend it like a drunken sailor of just like, here's money, here's money, here's money. And it causes prices to go up and everything just drastically go crazy because you have no efficiency or incentive to bring costs down.
How much money does a drunken sailor have?
I don't know. Eventually they end up with none.
Oh, because they're spending it. But one of the things that, we have Lori here, and she says that she's heard that there's a glue shortage due to COVID, right? To my understanding, a lot of glues are made with sawdust, like, sawdust, whatever, other particles. So obviously those things get affected, and that's the problem. We're seeing shortage in copper. We're seeing shortages across the board. Ourselves, we're seeing shortages of being able to purchase dishwashers, stoves, stuff like that, where we can't find what we used to buy. So the next step up is like, we used to buy, let's say, a full kitchen package for about $1,000. Now we're buying a whole kitchen package for under like $1,500.
Yep.
Or $2,000 or more, right? Because it's more than doubled for what's available. So it's like you're seeing shortages in all these areas. So that's where we keep talking about, is like everything affects everything else. And I think this is where people get into trouble, perhaps, is when a crisis happens or a market shift, everybody tries to develop maybe new rules, new policies, new systems in the moment. Where I think this right now is the world is going crazy trying to figure out what, I guess, the new normal is going to be. I don't think this is the new normal. I think this is right now out of whack, right? It's out of whack. People are overcorrecting left and right. Home prices, builders, food, everything. Even employee wages, all of these things are overcorrecting. But at some point, everybody's going to get to a point, even the guy selling the cattle is going to get to a point where he's like, okay, I'm kind of running low on money. I'm going to have to sell one of these cows, because I try to stick my guns on this, but like I need some money. So he sells for a little bit less, and then he sells the other one for the same price, and now all of a sudden, now there's a price on cattle that is
There's
justifiable.
an efficiency model to it, towards like not everyone has extra money to stay put.
But what needs to happen, and in my opinion, is all of this government handout needs to stop, because you need to start forcing people to get to that equilibrium. If you keep telling people, we're going to print more, we're going to give you more. There's politicians that were saying, you know, that last bill that was signed, the last stimulus, that was like home families that had 2 or 3 children under the age of 6 that made under $150,000 a year are pretty much getting about 13 grand a year because of the stimulus. You know, that's the child credit, all these things. About 13 grand a year they're getting. You got to stop that. And then politicians are like, this needs to be permanent, not temporary. This needs to be permanent. Families of making under 150 grand need to get 13 grand a year. It was a little bit north of 13 grand a year permanently moving forward. It's like, what? You know what I mean? As long as all those things keep going, people are going to be like, well, you know, I don't really have to go look for a job. I got the money taken care of.
All it's going to do is it just reinforces bad behavior, and the economy will adjust to that. And down the road, we're going to be right back in the same exact problems we're having now. Yeah. It's a short-term fix. And that's also like politicians, because they got to get votes, focus on short-term solutions, not stuff that's going to last long periods of time that are actually going to be good for things. It's like, no. What's going to get me votes? Like, well, these people want money. I'm going to I can get these votes by just giving them money. All right, let's just give them money. Let's give them stuff. Let's give them free things.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, I did have another article here relating to the housing market and lumber and stuff, is that as lumber prices triple, here's what to watch out for. So at Guadalupe Lumber, President Kyle, says wholesale prices are through the roof. This is absolutely unprecedented. Lumber's been going up and up. All right, a lot of ups. He says, I love when they quote him like every single word. It's like, yeah, it's been going up. He says mills made a bad bet that through the pandemic, the housing market would slow down. They got behind the 8 ball last year on production. Mills are now playing catch up as a year of staying home sparks a frenzy of home improvement projects. Plywood that was at $7-8 a sheet a year ago is now $30-40+ We've never seen it that high. Industry experts say over the past year, these soaring lumber prices have driven up the cost of new homes by more than $35,000. We're about 1 to 2 billion board feet short of the needs that are necessary to produce homes in the United States. So, I mean, just listen to that number, 1 to 2 billion board feet shorts to produce a home. That's a lot, right? They're even saying, so when the average house takes 15,000 to 20,000 board feet, we are almost 2 billion board feet short. So, I mean, you can think about how much housing that is that could be supplying the market and helping home prices. You can find, you can kind of do the reverse math and know that's a whole bunch of houses. When we sell a home, we're locking in the lumber price to the consumer. This was a builder was saying this. But the builders won't get the lumber until a few months later. And in that time, prices could spike. Depends on the builder. Some builders will honor what they do. But there are clauses in the contracts that say if prices spike beyond a certain level, the buyer agrees to pay that difference. You'd hate to be in the middle of the process and get surprised. He says the lumber costs are leading to hard choices, not just for buyers, but for builders too. The cold reality of a hot housing market. He says, I know of builders recently who canceled 30 contracts. These are sold homes.
Yeah, so, I see like on Broker Undergrounds, like people representing buyers for new home constructions, and they're getting these contracts saying like, hey, we're canceling this contract.
Yeah.
And they're all pissed off and until like all these greedy builders just want to sell the house from us. Like, no, they're just trying to stay in business. It's like, that's what happens when you have this much money flowing around and prices skyrocketing like this. It's like you're contracting like just raw land for sale. It's 6 months before the house is built. And it's like, it is going to take a long time to build that to where it's like, yeah, they can't eat the cost when prices go that high in a year. Like they can't eat $50,000 or $30,000 extra dollars, and like they don't make that kind of margin on these homes.
No,
and it's not just materials that are going up; labor's going up with it because there's such a boom in it. They're paying people more and more and more money, trying to incentivize them to come to work. And
yeah, I mean, in all these things, they're just they keep saying, you know, a lot of people talk about the prices. Prices have never been this high, blah blah blah. But I'm just like, it doesn't matter that they've never been this high. What matters is the increase in such a short period of time. That's what's hurting it. It's not that the high levels necessarily are hurting it. It's hurting that it went from $7 to $40 in less than a year,
to 20 to 25, and it's like in that short period of time.
Because then you
like,
think about it, and you're like, houses need to go from 400,000 to now, I don't know, what is it, like
450,
2 million?
Yeah.
For it to be justify the same growth that lumber has gotten. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. It's an insane amount that it hasn't. Obviously it can't go. Wages would need to go up just as high. So it's that large increase in such a short period of time that is hurting everybody, because even though home prices are going up, it's still not enough. Still not enough to absorb that kind of growth. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's also, it's trying to find its equilibrium. It's like we have no inventory, so prices are increasing, trying to find that equilibrium of inventory. Like, where is the new price where inventory starts to rise, where people will no longer want to buy or can't afford to buy that housing prices. But right now, prices are going up and people are still able to afford them.
Well, and then it also gets to that point is that prices keep going up and up and up and up and up, up. However many ups he had. A lot of people don't want to sell. Because it's like, are you kidding me? Why the hell would I sell right now? My house just appreciated like 15 grand in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep waiting until it keeps going up.
Well, not even that. It's just like, but it's also like, yeah, I make more money, but I sell my house, but where do I go? I hear all these horror stories of people trying to buy houses and getting bid out in these bidding wars and there's nowhere to go. It's like, I don't want to go through that stress.
Yeah,
so what am I going to do? I'm just going to build a 400 square foot mother-in-law suite on my house. I'm going to do renovation, home improvement projects. I'm going to improve where I'm at. And then, because now it's like, so inventory's so low, people don't want to give it more inventory because they're just like, nah, not going to do it. So now when you have this, all these people want to buy because now all of a sudden everyone has cash. Like,
and this is why I said right now is where contractors can make a killing, because home renovation projects are going to be through the roof. Additions, making more comfortable living spaces and everything, because it's just that. It's just, you look at it, now all of a sudden your home value went through the roof. If you have a decent credit and everything, they're lowering the refi option so more people can refinance. So if your house went way up and now you can refinance, guess what? Now you can pull out the money to renovate your own house and then some. You know, but I mean, I at that point, affordability is going to be an issue, right? You still need to be able to afford the home.
Yeah.
But how do you see this playing out? Like, do you think this will hit a point of like, all right, lumber prices keep going up, and at some point it just like kind of hits that, all right, that's enough. You know, it starts kind of like dropping again and some form of equilibrium. Like, how do you see?
I mean, I don't know. It's you have two sides. You have a supply side and a demand side. Right now, there's not enough supply and high demand. So either supply needs to rise to meet the demand, or demand needs to drop to equal out the supply of material. So I think it's going to be a combination of both eventually, to where I don't know, because
like people just stop moving.
Well, I don't think it's people stop moving or anything like that. It's just, it's a hard thing to guess at. It's
because
like, what needs
that's
to
one
happen?
thing that,
like, where's it need to go? It's like I think people need to not necessarily quit moving. It's just like there needs to be a rise in inventory. It's like, because with low inventory, you can pump more supply. But if the inventory doesn't rise to get to an equilibrium, it's going to continue to go up. and
Yeah.
you're going to continue to have this suck from the top. So I think prices need to continue to increase until demand stops because of price.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the demand, right? Before all this, right? We would list a house, and we would get a few showings a day, more or less, depending on the area. Wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
But now we list a house, and not only do we get an offer like that moment, but how many showings are scheduled like instantly?
I mean, in 24 hours of a house, less than 24 hours, we have 20 showings scheduled and already have an offer. Went live last night at like 4 or 5 o'clock and already
Over
have
ask.
15. Yeah, well over ask. Damn near 10% over ask.
Yep.
To where
That's what I'm getting at is that that's demand.
Yeah.
That's demand. And you just listed and you have over 20 showings. These are people that are desperate to be on the market. And the first offer was an FHA buyer because why? It's very hard for them to compete.
Yeah.
Because we're getting conventional buyers that are putting in offers well over ask and they're waiving the appraisal.
Yeah.
Where an FHA buyer can't do that.
Well, that's exactly
So-
where it is. Like, where does it stop? It's like, I think it comes from both sides. Like, prices are going to continue to increase until you hit that equilibrium.
Yeah.
When people run out of cash to be able to afford to buy homes. And that's what's going to start increasing and putting the brakes on or taking foot off the gas for that. You can have interest rates rise a little bit to make mortgages start to rise to where it makes it less affordable to buy a home. That can slow price appreciation. And then you can have more supply come from the backside so people can build houses faster to fuel this demand. But it's one of the things, like, as the demand is still there, prices are going to continue to rise until something slows it down. That's either price, and it usually comes down to just sheer price.
And
it's
then I
all it
also
is.
think that that's where the opportunity comes for investors. Like we talk about buy and hold opportunities of if they raise interest rates, mortgages become more expensive, all that, people still need to go somewhere. They're going to have to rent because they can't afford to buy a house now. They're going to have to rent. You know what I mean? So that's when we get that equilibrium of the rents that haven't been keeping up all of a sudden start increasing a little bit more because it's like people have nowhere else to go. And we still, like
But,
in San Antonio, we still have a huge influx of people moving here every day.
You see that. I mean, our rents across the board have just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I mean, for stuff that it's like, you're paying how much to rent? What? Like,
Yeah.
well, my God. And that, I mean, and that's just like, it's the amount of people and the regulatory burden of how long it takes to build a house. Like, if a contractor could get there and say, like, hey, build me a house right there on that lot, and it didn't have the government involved in slowing things down, they could probably throw a house up in, I'd say, maybe 3 months.
Right.
If materials are ready to go, they didn't have to have inspections, they didn't have to deal with all that crap of like the delays and stuff. They could probably throw it up in 2.5, 3 months. But it takes now 6 to 9 because of that, to where they want their pound of flesh from it, their cost. They gotta,
and we're
get
not
their
even
money.
advocating that you don't have regulation as far as determining that the right things are being built, right? Because you also don't want contractors cutting corners and, not putting enough 2x4s on a wall to save on lumber prices and all these things. You don't want them cutting corners. So there is regulation that is needed. That frustration is that the regulation that's costing money and time is not that regulation.
Yeah, no.
That it's not the regulation of whether the house is being built safely. That's not the regulation that's causing the problems. It's the BS regulation that doesn't require anybody to go to any property to verify anything. It's just the shits and giggles of everything.
Well, just like our scenario, it's like, how is there not something in the property code says if I'm building the exact same house on top of a slab, regardless of the zoning, regardless of anything,
Yeah.
other crap, it's like, yeah, you can build on that. But why does that process to do that require to go to a board to get it approved by these people and take just ungodly amounts of time to do it?
Well, it's just like that article I just read about, nearly 40% of the cost of the regulation cost comes pre-construction. So the majority of the cost is coming in before you even put up anything on the property.
Yeah.
So it's like, why? Why all that regulation before you even start building? The regulation should be, are you building a safe home? Not, how are we getting our pound of flesh? So anything else you have on real estate right now?
I mean, one of them I have is like the San Antonio. I had this from a couple weeks ago. It's like the San Antonio housing market heats up with double-digit growth in prices and sales. This is from March data, and the April data is starting to come out now. And it said, once again, home sales and prices are up in San Antonio. Because you had that comment a while back, like, so nobody's buying houses. And I was like, no, sales are up. Like, it's like it's trying to fuel demand. Like, they're putting houses onto the market, but they're just gone instantly because the sales volume is still ever increasing. So once again, home prices and sales are up in San Antonio. The San Antonio Board of Realtors March 2021 report shows double-digit year-over-year growth and points to high demand in the local market. March 2021 home sales jumped 16% over the previous year to 3,029 homes sold, Sabor says. At the same time, the median home price grew 12% year over year to $268,500, while the average price climbed to an even higher 15% to $316,971. At the county level, only Harris County, home of Houston, saw a bigger increase in sales than Bexar County. Houston was up 19.8% compared to Bexar County's 13.9% jump. And I just did some quick data on the stuff that we pull, and median sales price increased again for the month of May. And
where's it at now?
For where I get my information, it's at 270. For the median sales price. That's 10 months in a row of double-digit appreciation. And it's not like 11, 11 and a half, 12. No, we've been hitting 13s, 16s, 18s, 19s, 17s. Like, it's middle range of where the month average is, because I do a 12-month average tracking of what it's done the 12-month average. Or 12-month average is double digits, but there's still 2 months of 2% and 3% average appreciation, to where when those two fall off, our 12-year average is going to be in the mid-teens for year-over-year appreciation.
Wow.
Which is just insane. To like, when's it stop? I don't know, because people are selling their homes because prices are up, or our sales volume is up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's at what point does it run out of inventory? When does more inventory outstrip demand, or more sales outstrip demand, that bring that into an equilibrium?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, to add to all the chaos and the mayhem that's going on, we had a pipeline that got hacked this week. So the Colonial Pipeline was hacked by a Russian hacker group called, what was it? Dark Side. And they hacked the oil pipeline. So as soon as they did, the gas pipeline, they shut down their distribution. They shut down everything just as a safeguard. They supply gas to the whole East Coast and a little bit of like the South, all the way to Texas comes their deliveries. This spurred a massive panic. And this happened Monday. And by Wednesday, you had, by Tuesday, 9 p.m., 12% of the gas stations in North Carolina were out of gas, 8% in Virginia, and North Carolina had 8%.
Wow.
By 9 p.m., right? Then, where'd it go? The shortage almost acute in North Carolina. By Wednesday, they were at 65%. So just a day later, Georgia 43% and Virginia 44% of the gas stations in the state were out of gas. So what happened, the worst thing that happened with this whole crisis was that they shut down for a few days, but people freaked the hell out.
Well,
they
it happened
panicked
here.
so drastically, right? And Texas wasn't going to be affected at all, pretty much. And we were seeing gases, they were saying Texas didn't have any gas outage. I've gone to gas station where there was like 2 pumps open. All the other ones had the bags over the pump that they didn't have, that weren't pumping any gas. And that was here in Texas, and people were freaking the hell out, overfilling tanks, everything. Like, gas was going out of stock just because they didn't say that they had a gas shortage. They just shut down because of the hack. So all they needed to do was repair whatever the hack problem caused, but the gas is there.
Yeah.
But it scared, and this is what we talk about a lot, it's that you cannot predict how people are going to react. And to me, it's like you can. They're always going to freak the hell out. People are always going to panic. All it takes is one person to panic. The neighbor sees them. They panic. The other neighbor sees them. All of a sudden, everybody's out to the gas
Well, that's
stations.
what you had. Like, you see all those pictures of people like pumping gas into giant Tupperware totes, putting
Yeah.
it in plastic bags and trying to like hoard it in gallon jugs. And it's like, you can't put gas in those things. Like it eats it. It'll whatever. And like, what are you going to do? You're putting it in a plastic tote. How are you going to get that into your car?
Oh, it was insane.
Seriously.
Yeah.
We want.
Yeah.
A lot of these people putting gas in a car don't realize that your gas flap has a safety device that you have to be able to push in to get the gas to go down. You can't just dump it in with a solo cup. It'll dump all over the ground and it evaporates. Like if you sit here, like liquid gas does not light on fire. It's the vapors that come off of gas. So it's like your liquid gas evaporates. And as it just evaporates, it's just going to get lower and lower and lower and lower. And to where, I mean, we had the gas shortages here after Hurricane Harvey because our supply chain was all messed up. And it just shows how fragile systems can be. But I just think it's funny where it's like, when the current administration shut down the Keystone pipelines and saying, oh, we don't want to rely on pipelines and stuff like that anymore. But you realize how vital these things are to entire economies because like gas, fossil fuels runs the economy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, even then, like, okay, electric vehicles, where does electricity come from? From power generation, from coal. How do those move? Diesel fuel by train. And it's like,
well,
how
and then
it works.
We go back to the domino effect that we were talking about before is that they already have a shortage on truck drivers, right? There's already a shortage on truck drivers. So this problem was resolved by 5 p.m. Wednesday. They were opening back up. And they wanted to get, so they actually distribute infrastructure transports around 2.5 million barrels per day. That's how much they distribute. Diesel fuel, heating oil, and jet fuel. The pipeline stretches 5,500 miles and carries nearly half of the East Coast fuel supply. So 2.5 million barrels a day. They were shut down for pretty much 3 days. And they got to catch up now, but they can't find the truck drivers.
Yeah.
So that delay hurts everybody. Now, it could have been fine if people didn't freak out, but yet people freaked out, and look what happened. You know, this was by yesterday morning. By Thursday morning, 71% of the gas stations in North Carolina had no gas. 71% of them. 68% had no gas. Let's see. Oh, budget still dipping by 68%. I can't remember which state. I guess I didn't put it in there. But you have Virginia at 54%, South Carolina 52% of the gas stations. They didn't have any gas by Thursday morning by 10 a.m. So, I mean, it's just beyond insane. And the gas company actually ended up paying the $5 million ransom that these guys wanted in cryptocurrency. So they wanted
my kind of thing is like, you only wanted $5 million? I feel like if you just shut down an entire, you shut down a pipeline that just took an entire region of the United States economy almost essentially offline overnight within 3 days, like more than half the state was out of gas.
It's one of those things too where it's like, it's reasonable enough that we will get that money versus asking too much and there's a higher risk that we won't. You know what I mean? Because if they were to ask for, let's say, really do a good ransom on something like that and say we want, I don't know, $50 million. Now maybe they risk not even getting that.
Yeah,
right?
It's a cost-benefit analysis where it's like, yes, that part of the country is shut down, but we can get this fixed for $10 million in a week.
Plus, they've been hacking. Like this isn't the only place they hacked. They've been hacking everybody. So I mean, they're raking in millions from all different directions.
Yeah.
You know, so you ask just enough, and kind of like when we were sued. Remember when back that they had those, what do they call them?
Patent trolls.
Yeah, those patent trolls that they try to sue us. And they asked for, what was it, $7,000.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fortune, but it's enough where a lot of people, a lot of small businesses are like, you know what, let me just pay the $7,000 to avoid any further problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they targeted small business that didn't have the resources to fight
exactly.
it. And luckily we were well versed enough to go out and find somebody for $350, took care of it because it was like complete BS. How and why and what for they were trying to sue us for. And he's like, but if you went through and look at, they were successfully winning settlements and negotiating down, saying we will sue you if you don't settle. And people eventually said, look, I only have $3,000, and all right, we'll settle at that and release it.
And these assholes, they were working with a law firm out of California. So, I mean, the law firm was abusing the hell out of everybody. But that's just what they do. It's better to just get something that's realistic versus try to ask for an ungodly amount of money. That's like, all right, now we stand to get nothing.
Yep, and they understand why and they wonder why people don't like attorneys.
So, do you have another article next? What do you?
I mean, we kind of jumped
we
around,
have,
but something. Well, I can touch on that later.
We have the Bitcoin's been going stupid recently, like always. Cryptocurrency.
I like your my employer paid me crypto. It rose 7% in value.
So I read this one. I had it for last week, and I just never got to it. But my employer paid me in crypto. It rose 700% in value. Now he wants employees to return the crypto and accept dollars. So this is the guy. He said, I did some business development work for a tech company on a contract basis. The CEO stated that I would be paid in crypto when I started the work in the spring of 2020. He added a clause to the contract stating the company may elect to pay in US dollars. The guy, smart, he says, I struck out that part of the contract because if I was going to risk getting paid in crypto and the price all of a sudden appreciated, I didn't want the company to revert to paying me in dollars. In August of 2020, I received payment for the contract work in cryptocurrency. Since then, the price of cryptocurrencies has skyrocketed. As of this moment, the cryptocurrency that I received payment in has gone up 700%. Today, I received an email from the CEO stating that something along the lines of, since you did not generate any revenue for the company and are not currently doing any follow-up work, please send back all of the crypto received in August of 2020. You can invoice the company for the hours worked in US dollars. So they're not buying the crypto back that went up 700%. They're wanting them to return the crypto and give them the US dollar equivalent of what they paid them in August. So this guy, all of a sudden, his crypto is worth 700% more. And he's saying, okay, yeah, let me wipe out all that gain that I just got and get paid in dollars because, you're an idiot. So basically stating that I can invoice in US dollars at 7 times less of the crypto today. Please note that there have been several other people trying to sell the company's solutions. It is a startup, and so far, they are still trying to generate their first dollar in sales. The purpose of the contract was to generate sales, and it included a commission component. But the understanding was that I would bill hourly for cold calling and emailing people, generating proposals, setting up meetings, participating, and leading pitches, etc., with the goal of generating revenue. I am not really sure what to do. I have worked with this person for many years, and he has the tendency to try to change the terms of payment after agreeing on a certain way of operating. So this was the person complaining about it, but I saw that and I was just laughing. I was like, oh my God, they paid him in crypto. You paid him. That's it. Like,
you paid him at that time the equivalent of the US dollar.
That's it.
Like I owe you $100. I'm going to pay you $100 in crypto. Then the crypto went through the roof, and it's like, whoa, I want that crypto back now. It's like, no. You paid him a fair wage. And it's like, whether it went up or not, it's your fault. You put that in the freaking contract.
It's insane. It's something that, and even like he struck that out of the contract, right? Which is okay. But he's still, at the time of payment, he got what he got.
Well, because also he took the risk too. Like, crypto could have gone down.
Well, it would still be the same equivalent.
Yeah, but now if he wouldn't have converted it, like he said, like he was paid $100, and all of a sudden now, say crypto didn't do what it did, and it went backwards 700%. So now he's like, hey, I'm gonna give you this crypto back, and I want you to pay me in US dollars now.
Yeah, pay me the difference.
It goes the other way. Yeah. So where it's like, no, you converted on a dollar for dollar basis back in August for the work performed, and you gave it to him, and it was put in the contract. So now to ask that he would want it back and saying you didn't generate revenue, it's like the dude. What it just says, like, they're still trying to sell the company solutions, the problem that it solves. Yeah. Like, so the guy's just trying to generate revenue somehow. He's like, well, hey, give me that crypto back so I can make all that money, and I'm going to pay you in dollars based on it so I have more revenue. It's like, yeah, you're just a slimy person is what you are. Like,
shady, and very screwed up practices. But it's it's interesting what people try to get away with, when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, lately, what we were talking about earlier is your boy Elon Musk. Did you have an article or no?
No, it was it was my own kind of talking point or something like that. Just a thought that I had about it. And then you kind of see some articles about it, but I mean, none that, it sums it up and just saying like, and we all talked about it. I mean, Dre even mentioned this morning, it's like, how's this not illegal? To where Tesla comes out, and Musk is Tesla, comes out and says, we're buying $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, and does it. Boom. Price goes up.
Tesla will be accepting Bitcoin.
And it's like, and then they come out and say, we're going to start accepting Bitcoin for Tesla. And this isn't like years ago. This is like 2-3 months ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that they said that. So then all of a sudden, boom, crypto goes up even more, saying now it has more of a functional use. People are accepting it as payment. Look at Tesla. Look what they're doing. Look at Elon Musk, big tech entrepreneur. Sweet. Comes out and says like, oh yeah, Dogecoin, Dogcoin, whatever you want to call it.
Douchecoin.
He comes out and it says like, oh, this stuff's going to the moon. I love it so much. And like, it was created as a joke. To where my question is like, does he own this himself and is now pumping it and dumping it? Because now they just came out like yesterday and said that Tesla will no longer be accepting Bitcoin because of the environmental concerns of the amount of energy it takes to mine Bitcoin.
Yeah, because
what happens?
This is all of a sudden new information.
Yeah, it's new information. It's like, no. We've known this since like 2017, 2016, that it took a lot of consumption of power, which is generated by fossil fuels, to mine Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden, cryptocurrencies across the board just tank. So on his one tweet, he tanks it. He buys it. He says Tesla can accept it. It goes through the roof. My question is, did they sell that Bitcoin? And then he says, we're not going to take it and plummet to the floor. Because now like Dogecoin fell through the floor. And today he came out and said, oh, I'm working with developers to help improve the efficiency of Dogecoin. And all of a sudden the price went up 40% at like 3 a.m. today.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you are straight manipulating this market. You tweet is a direct correlation, and the things you say to what these currencies or assets are doing. How is this not some form of violation?
Yeah,
from some way. And I think it's a Musk. It's like he's a first or second richest person behind Bezos. They go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, is he just an untouchable? He's like, I just like having funny because I can very easily, I buy a bunch, price goes up, I make a tweet, goes up even more, and I sell it off, it goes down, I buy it again. Like, does he play the market that way? Because obviously he has the power to do it, because when his single tweet makes markets go up or down, especially in the cryptocurrency space.
Yeah.
Or like, what is that going to do? I know he got slapped pretty hard from the SEC for taking Tesla private.
But it's just a tweet of taking Tesla private.
Yeah, and that's just one of the things I look at. It's like, but does he really care? Because it's one of the things an article or
well, then it's like, what's really the punishment to somebody?
Well, yeah,
like
yesterday I was listening to a podcast, and they run analyses to where like the opioid crisis, the pharmaceutical companies, they ran analysis saying like, hey, if we push this drug off that it's non addictive and it's not habit forming and it's safe for consumers, we're gonna make $75 billion. But we're probably going to get sued by the government and have to pay a $10 billion fine for that. They still made $65 billion in profit, so they go ahead and do it. Anyways, I know it's bad, but it's like, we need to make profit. We need to drive shareholder value. Right. I was like, does Musk do the same thing? And does he really care? It's like, the SEC is going to call me in. They're going to do this. I have the attorney battle. I'm going to pay for it. But I drove the price so high, and I made huge amounts of money on Tesla. I think they made 25% of their first quarter profits came from Bitcoin. So it's like, so does that mean you sold it and actually realized that profit?
Yeah.
And now you're saying they're not going to accept it anymore and now cratered the value? It's like,
no, I think to me, I don't see how it's not a violation. You are purposely buying something, pumping it, with hype and everything, and pretty much making money off of it. So you come off and you say, oh, well, those are just my opinions. And I agree. I mean, to some point, it's like, well, what point is it like your own responsibility to not be a freaking moron and buy Dogecoin that is a fake currency and they did it to make fun, and you see all these idiots buying it? It's like, my God, like, if you get wiped out, good. You're obviously an idiot.
Yeah.
So if Elon Musk tweets something and you're going just based on that tweet, you know nothing about the currency. You don't believe in Bitcoin. You don't believe in any of that. You don't feel like in the fundamentals of the investment. Then what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's the same reason why we talk about when a lot of people try to get into real estate because real estate is hot, right? And, I want to flip houses because that's what everybody's doing. That's how you're going to lose money, though.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know how to flip houses, you don't know, how to buy correctly, how to sell correctly.
Where to buy, how to buy.
Everything.
How to do the
You're going to
construction.
lose your ass on it.
It's like there's people all along that chain will be glad to take your money and leave you stuck holding the bag at the very end when you go to try to sell a house that's like, oh, I'm in it for $250, but it only is worth $180.
So while I believe that it should be somewhat illegal what he's doing, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. It's still your decision that you're choosing to, like, he's not selling it to you, so he's not doing like, Wolf of Wall Street style. Like, he's just doing it where he's just saying what he believes. And if you go out and buy, it's like, well, that's on you. You know what I mean? Like, he's not telling you, hey, buy my crypto. He doesn't have, what was it? The super tech god, or what was the new title he gave himself?
Oh, Techno King.
Techno King coin.
And then the CFO was Master of Coin.
Master of Coin.
Those are the official names with the SEC. It's just like, oh my God.
So, I mean, it's crazy, and people keep jumping in and keep chasing the fluff and everything. And it's like, guys, come on. You're losing your ass because you're too lazy to do it the right way, and you're not paying attention to does it even make sense? And I think that's where a lot of people are going to be getting in trouble, and we probably will see some regulation at some point where it's like you can no longer talk about anything financial in case some idiot is listening and starts trading on your word. Like, oh, yay, there we go, more silencing. But in other news, rapper 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, left New York City. So, raised in New York, all about New York, he ended up moving New York City to Houston, Texas, because the taxes were just insane. He said, I've tried to stay here, I'm fed up, and I'm moving to Texas. So, you are having...
What up, Fitty?
Wow.
Come on down here.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have all these things going on, and you have Andrew Yang that's running for mayor or governor?
Mayor of New York City.
Mayor?
Yeah, I just listened to our podcast on him yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, he's running.
So he's running for mayor, and he's all about the universal basic income and, higher taxes and everything. I mean, you're killing New York. New York is all about businesses, entrepreneurship. That's what New York was built on. It's the business capital damn near.
Well, I mean, tourists, the tourists, you have this, and they're talking about like how tourists was down. Subway ridership was like 70% down. Like all of these revenue generators that cost a lot of money to run weren't there.
Well, I had an article before too of New York City loses $1.2 billion after tourists spending drops by 73%. So, I mean, $1.2 billion in tax revenue. Add that to all the billionaires that have already left, all the real estate prices that have been tanking in the city and everywhere because of, just people weren't getting their rents paid and stuff like that. Rental apartment buildings were dropping in price. So they're losing so much revenue, so much possibility, and they force businesses to, close, and all these insane restrictions that they put on a lot of businesses, restaurants, everything. So, I mean, yeah, you killed tourism, you killed businesses, you killed everything, and then you're raising taxes. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
what do you think is going to happen?
New York is in a very, very difficult position. And it's not like I want to see New York fail by any means, because it is a huge generator of revenue for the entire United States. So let's keep it on perspective that the United States is still our country. New York is still part of the United States. So we don't want to see something that large fail. But it's one of the, like, you run policies a certain way, and it's like it just shows like, hey, these policies don't work. Because like he was talking about, it's like we can't cut services and make people more insecure about the place we live, and then the revenue drops further and we have to cut more services. As like it's a very it's a dance you really have to play and walk a fine line to keep things moving forward, and so you don't end up like what New York was like in the 70s when it damn near went bankrupt.
Yeah.
But one thing I think that is going to help is New York is as a finance capital of the United States. Jamie Dimon, CEO of Chase Bank, JP Morgan and Chase, he came out and said he's fed up with Zoom. Fed up with Zoom calls, says pre-pandemic office life is returning. Jamie Dimon is no fan of the new remote work structure that has taken hold during the coronavirus pandemic. The JP Morgan Chase chairman and CEO has already told his U.S. employees they should begin getting used to returning this month, with the goal of having 50% of workers rotating through offices by July. He's fine with the greater flexibility allowed by employees working from home part-time. He said Tuesday there is no substitute for being at the office. He quotes, "We want people back to work. In my view, my view on that is sometime in September, October. It will look just like it did before," Dimon said in a Wall Street Journal, "and everyone is going to be happy with it. And yes, the commute, people don't like commuting, but so what?" The CEO including Dimon and Goldman Sachs' David Solomon, have expressed dissatisfaction with the new model. That's in contrast with the technology companies like Facebook and Twitter that have announced a permanent shift to remote work for those that want it. He also said clients have told him that in cases where JP Morgan lost business to rivals, it was because bankers from other guys visited and ours did not. He's like, well, that's a solid lesson learned there. It accelerated a trend, but it does not work for younger people. It does not work for those who want to hustle. It does not work in terms of spontaneous idea generation. As an illustration, Dimon said he was brimming with ideas after a trip to California last year that he wouldn't have gotten via a Zoom meeting. And then basically said, at this point, I have canceled all Zoom meetings in my calendar. So for New York, that is a great thing. Because New York is a financial capital. You got Goldman Sachs, you have JP Morgan, you have Wells Fargo, you have all that stuff there where it's like you need people meeting, you need people running it. And that was the magic of New York City. It was a 24-hour city. You had people constantly interacting, meeting at coffee shops, meeting at the offices, bars, restaurants, and ideas flowing that cannot happen over a flat computer screen.
Yeah.
So, and it's good to see because I 100% agree with that. It's just I'm sure it worked for some people that want to be at home, want to be left alone, and find being behind a computer all day. But I think the majority of people, you look at our just genetic code, we are a packed style of human beings or animals at the end of the day. So you need to have interaction. You need to be around people, and it's not normal to be isolated like that. And it might work for tech. But I think there's a lot of industries that it won't.
Even then, just look at it in the business sector of it, right? But even in the tech space, you still need human contact, right? Because the things that happen person to person, face to face, are very different than what's going to happen over a Zoom call, a scheduled, planned Zoom call, right? You don't have that kind of
and the distractions too. I'm sure it's for you too. If you're on a Zoom call and you have your computer, which is basically your entire workflow right there in front of you, and nobody can see that you're doing things in the background, but they can see your face, you're gonna do it. We're all taking some CE class for education. I have a spreadsheet that I'm working on while participating in the class. It's in your mind can't
don't say that.
Split that
he's
way.
Lying. He's listening to everything. He earns his CE credits.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of business that we've been dealing with and talking to people and trying to conduct, and it's been because of face-to-face meetings that we met for whatever other reason. Then all of a sudden you're talking, the way it goes, the way it flows. So now you're talking about this and that, and it's like, well, I am doing this thing. What about? It's like, oh, okay. If you were trying to plan to meet with somebody through Zoom, it just wouldn't happen. Right? Yeah. Because how many times are you you create a deal or partnership or something with somebody that you had no plan on meeting with?
Yeah.
Because it was just maybe at an event or somewhere that you met with this person and it just happened.
And I think that I was thinking how could it ever switch to real estate to not be face to face? To walk a house. There would have to be a huge consumer shift that you'd have to be okay walking a house. Not even you walking it. You're just watching a video of somebody else walking a house, not touching, not feeling the space. And you're just kind of okay. You have to be okay with buying something sight unseen like that.
Well, I think it's more of the incorporation of VR and everything like that you can
Yeah,
feel like you're in the space, but like it's like
then you still
everything. You
can't
can see
touch it.
pictures, you can see whatever, but then you can't really judge the depth of a room. Does it, then when you actually go to the house, you're like, oh, it actually feels smaller.
Yeah, it's not as big as I thought it was going to be.
I don't like the noise of the neighbor or the whatever it is in the backyard or the smell,
Or they're using
whatever.
in the drive.
Yeah.
Like I have to get around. I have to drive to commute. I have to go to the grocery store. I have to find what amenities around. Like you can't do that. Like
Google,
I don't know.
Google Earth, Google Maps.
Yeah, you're just like clicking
Street
through. Like,
view.
oh, that's 15 minutes. It's like, yeah, but what's the drive? What does it swing?
I
during
mean, I
certain
think
times?
it's still, we're going to see it because we already see a lot of people that, I mean, even just the rental that we got, didn't we get it rented from somebody that hasn't seen it?
Yeah.
Right. So I think you will see a larger percentage than in the past, but you're still going to see overall, most people are going to want to go see the house.
Yeah.
They're going to want to go walk the house. They're going to want to go open and close the drawers and open and close the doors, and does everything feel right and everything feels good and all of this. And you will have others, especially when you have such a hot market where people getting outbid and you're moving to another city where it's like, yeah, we're going to have to buy it sight unseen and trust the best with technology, with everything that that we're getting a decent home. So, I mean, I think what we need to hurry up with is this doing closings online. I think this whole thing of having notaries, I'm like, come on. Why can't we have a Zoom notary, right? They're the notary. They're seeing me here. I'm showing the ID, or I scanned my ID somewhere. There's got to be some way of doing this that we can do this online, that we don't have to always be doing this in person, wet signatures. I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah, and I mean, they got to figure something out with that. And I mean, I know there are some services out there that are already like,
Yeah.
But if it's like for like a cash transaction or something, to where it's just like, trying to schedule showings and meetings in person, it's like for stuff like that, for just a signature, it's like, all right, we got to figure something out for that. But I understand why it is. I mean, it is how the ability for fraud to happen with something like that drastically goes up. And when you're talking about loans of hundreds of thousands of dollars and things like that for banks, like it is a fragile system to where it's like, yeah, we're not buying a car here. Like it's
no,
like,
I get it, but what I'm saying is, with technology, with everything as it is, there's got to be a way that can be.
I'm sure, but it just comes down to a cost aspect. If somebody said, "Hey, we have a $700 closing fee," I'm like, "What? For what?" Oh, that's the cost of this new technology to be able to implement it, make it work.
I don't know.
And
Technology
it's like,
usually doesn't
no.
make things more expensive.
Over time, it brings costs down.
Yeah.
But up front, usually it's pretty damn expensive until enough people go on to bring the cost down to really, because technology usually, it's something that works economy of scale, brings cost down on a big scale. But when it first rolls out, it's usually kind of expensive. For facial recognition, fingerprint ID and stuff, all the technology that comes along with that, it's expensive at first. And
I don't know. I mean, we've notarized closings and everything at UPS store. There's not any level of security on that. I mean, it's just somebody that's saying yes and signing, but I mean, there isn't a level of security that you're saying.
But there's a lot more security than doing something digitally, though, because like you have to sign that notary book. They have to have a valid ID that references valid that it's them. And I mean, yeah, obviously you could pay somebody and do something like that, but it's also, at the end of the day, it's like that notary book is there, and you have to turn those notary books into somebody to where if you come back to it, you have to go. That book
and that can be done online too. It's a freaking log, like it could be kept online.
And I'm saying it can't be done, but it's like a blockchain technology, something, some aspect of it. But I think there is a lot of openness to a lot more fraud trying to do it digitally as it stands right now, or costs come up to what it's saying. Like if they try to charge me $700 for it, I'm like, I'll go to the UPS store. Thank you very much. Because it cost me $30.
Yeah.
Whereas like you are competing against that aspect of it. It's not for us that do it a lot. It's inconvenient, but for a homeowner that buys 4 houses throughout their lifetime, going to a title company isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, with that being said, I just want to remind you all that Monday is the deadline to do your taxes. So if you are like most people and waited to the last minute, hurry up. You're going to have to, if you didn't, I think, I don't know, for personal taxes, you have extensions that you can file and pay for, whatever. But Monday's tax day. So get your taxes in. Now, actually, didn't they say for Texas, tax day was June 15th, right?
Because
May is nationwide. Texas, because we had snow for a week, it went to June. That's what it was. So there you go. So Texas, for anybody in Texas, you got until June. So you can keep procrastinating. Everybody else, you have until Monday. So that wraps up this episode of Coffee with the Johns. Hope you guys got some value. Remember to like and subscribe to this video and this channel. Support us, help us out, share it with your friends. And we will be back every Friday morning, 8 a.m. to bring you the headlines that matter to you and your business. Thank you all for watching.
Bye-bye.